welcome to Board Game Breakfast. It is almost the end of August here, and we are now into the plethora of post-Gencon stuff, which means there are so many games to play and talk about. I had a gaming event this week, which, we just had so many games. It was like, what do we play? It wasn't a confusion over let's get some of these bad games that way. It was just so much good stuff to play. It's a very exciting time of the year. I did want to mention, several people have asked about Sheriff of Nottingham. I've already mentioned that this is the first game in the Dice Tower Essentials line. It was released at Gencon to somewhat good success, I think, and it will be released everywhere at the beginning of October. But we have some promo cards for Sheriff of Nottingham that you can get by donating to the Dice Tower, and we have those on our website at dicetower.com underneath the donate page. They'll be going up sometime today, so you can find those there along with poker chips and other things that you can get through the Dice Tower. That being said, I'm really excited about this line. If you haven't heard, the next game in the line is going to be called City of Gears. This is a light Euro game. Yes, a Euro game. I like all sorts of games. I'm looking at an abstract game right now. I just want games that are great to be part of this line. But City of Gears is a light Euro game in which you have some choices to either kind of expand onto the board or use, kind of up your special powers. Very interesting, quick gameplay for 2 to 4 players with some cool concepts in it. Very excited about this one. That being said, it's time for the news. Well, not much news this week, folks, because, a lot of stuff was announced at Gencon. But let's see, Ares Magazine is out. This was Kickstarter earlier this year. Ares Magazine is a bi-monthly or bi-weekly. I don't know it's bi-monthly means twice a month, although sometimes it means once every 2 months. But whatever, it comes out twice a month. And it's a science fiction magazine, but in every copy of this magazine there's also going to be a board game, a mini board game, obviously. So you can get that now. Nightmare Chess, 3rd edition. We now know more details on that thanks to Joseph at Gencon. It's going to be the first 2 Nightmare Chesses, Nightmare Chess 1 and 2, combined together with some updated stuff. Nightmare Chess, if you haven't heard, is one of the few chess variants I approve of by Bruno Feduti, who made Citadels. And in Nightmare Chess, you're basically playing cards that do all sorts of weird things. They let you move pieces different directions, change the direction of the board. It's really, really kind of a crazy game, and I don't think any chess player would ever take it very seriously, but I found it very enjoyable and, to me, livened up chess quite a bit. Gencon, speaking of Gencon, they announced their total numbers, 56,614. Unique attendees, turnstile attendance was 184,699. That is amazingly huge, and I'm curious to see how the convention will grow next year, because it doesn't look like they have a ton of room to grow, but we'll have to wait and see. It's earlier next year, and we're already working on the Dice Tower live show for that one. Well, let's get to Kickstarter news. There's certainly plenty of that, but before we do that, I do want to mention, as I always do, Dice Tower News is online. Even though I only mentioned a couple news items here, there was a lot of news posted last week. You can subscribe there, and every week you have a chance to win a $10 gift certificate from Cool Stuff. Anyhow.
Ninja Turtle shirt, I got my Tom Vasel hat, I got my games, I got my bear. Wait a minute, I don't have my bear. Camouflage, where are you? I lost you. Come on, Camouflage, it's time to go to Gencon. Mommy, Gencon! Oh man, Mommy, Gencon! I just gotta pack everything again. Ian. Wait, come on, Mommy, help me. Ian. Gencon.
We can't go to Gencon this year.
Oh man, you can go to Gencon this year. But Gencon came to me. Now these draw for Gencon edition and comes with an awesome hinge tin. It has a soft bag with fire and dice that are like, why did you plan this? In the bag there are cards, and the cards have Gencon artwork. These are the cards. And it added new dice like silver and copper. So I mean from Open Box Games Junior. So see you next time. Bye.
Hi, Suzanne here with this week's featured board game app. Most gamers think of Seven Wonders when they're asked about a drafting game, but Fairy Tale was released 6 years earlier, and it has its own app version. So let's take a quick look at this pick and pass game with a twist of its own. Fairy Tale is a simple drafting game in which you draft 5 cards and play 3 of them to your tableau. After 4 rounds, you'll have 12 cards in your tableau that will count towards your score. The twist in Fairy Tale is that only face-up cards will score, and there are a lot of cards that force you and your opponents to flip your cards. I really enjoy Fairy Tale in real life and was excited to try the app version. Unfortunately, the app has a number of shortcomings that tempered my excitement. The design of the interface feels dated and rudimentary, but it is functional. A lot of the app basics are present, but roughly implemented. There is a thorough set of tutorials, but they suffer from some awkward English translations, making this simple game seem way more complicated than it is. And there are animations that you can't turn off that take a long time and bog down the game. It's impossible to find a random online game, and I've seen reports that matching with your friends is even buggy. Fairy Tale is free to download and play the basic version, but you will get some ads until you pay to unlock one or both of the Expert Mode expansions. This actually doesn't really bother me, and I'm really glad that people can try the app before they spend money, because it's not one I can recommend without reservations. Keep in mind, the game itself is actually a really fun drafting game with some cool player interaction. And the gameplay is implemented well in the app if you can get over the surrounding annoyances. Basically, Fairy Tale is a game I prefer in real life to the app version. If the app played faster, I'd probably like it a lot better. But if you're hungry for a drafting game to play on your device before Seven Wonders is released, and because Fairy Tale is free to download, you might want to give it a try.
Hey folks, Tom Vasel here.
Jason Levine.
If you have a question for our question segment, send it to tomvasel@gmail.com. Today's question comes from Tobias, and he says, do you have any advice for running a tournament? Well, do you?
I have a lot of advice.
Well, yeah, I guess we should back this up. Jason, you run the Liar's Dice tournament
Yes.
at World Board Gaming Championship.
I run the Liar's Dice tournament. I also run a juniors tournament for Igloo Pop. Last year I also ran Concordia this past year, and I've already been in talks with a couple companies about running some of their new games for tournaments next year, which we'll get to at some
And I've
point
run a
down the
Marvel
road.
Dice Master tournament, a Ticket to Ride tournament. I've run a few tournaments myself. So, give some advice.
There's a couple things that you want when you're dealing with tournaments. The first thing is be very organized, have a structure of what you want to do if someone's going to win, if you are going to take second place players, or what you're going to do for the winning players. So if you're running a tournament that's a 2-player game, it's easy because only the winner will advance. But if you're running a tournament with a multiplayer game and it's a 5-player game and you need 25 people for your semifinals, then you want to make sure to have some sort of rules that say the people in first place do this, then the second placers will get this, and then some third placers will get this. And then you can kind of figure out your structure to get your tournament into the final rounds. Another thing I like to do is talk to the manufacturers if you can. I usually call the manufacturers, send them emails, and let them know that I'm running their tournament and if they could give any kind of prize participation as well. So when I run tournaments, a lot of times Rio Grande especially has been very good. When I used to run juniors tournaments, different games, Rio Grande would actually give me cases of games so I could give to every single kid who was playing in the juniors tournament a copy of the game, so they'd all go home with a copy of the game. And that kind of prize support is wonderful, and the people who enter the tournaments really love it.
I would also mention that have it clearly defined what you're going to do, know what's going to happen, and if you don't know what to do and the situation arises, you need to decide right then and there. Make it clear that you're in charge. Don't let players try to talk you out of stuff or talk you into stuff. Let's say you have a tournament for like 16 people, and you have it all set up, and someone comes in, please let's add 2 more people, and you're trying to figure out how you can do it, you got to stick to your guns, I think. Especially, announce things ahead of time. If 2 people argue, you need to come in and break that up. For me, I always emphasize that the tournament's about fun. I won't tolerate any kind of rules lawyering or any sort of no cheating, obviously, but I mean, I'm not going to tolerate if someone's ruining the spirit of the tournament, and have people know what they're getting. Don't change the prizes halfway through because you're like, well, everyone's doing so well, so we're going to take the big grand prize and split it into several small prizes. I've seen that before. That makes everybody unhappy. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, just be prepared for anything. A lot of times things change, and have fun. Make sure that the players that are in your tournament are having fun. That's the most important thing.
Alrighty, we'll see you next time.
Okay, Sean, time to lay down that funk.
Who's pretty good with the spatula? You know that I talk about Dracula. Who's watching Battlestar Galactica? You know that I talk about Dracula. He played both sides like the Crips and Bloods. You know that I talk about Dracula. Who answers every question with a different shrugs. You know that I talk about Dracula. Who likes to go by the name of Doug. You know that I talk about Dracula. He's been a nice, but he's kind of a thug. You know that I talk about Dracula. If you have a dog, it'd be a pug. You know that I talk about Dracula. Father's Day come, he don't get no mug. You know that I talk about Dracula. He can seem romantic, drawing you a doodle. Then he suck out your intestines just like the spaghetti noodle. Out in the alley where it's cold and damp, a creepy Disney movie like Lady and the Vamp thinks he's better than the rest of us, but it gets more blood than a phlebotomist.
Productions this week, we are going to continue Sam and Z's Top 100 of All Time. Those have been very enjoyable to record and put together, and it seems like folks are enjoying them. And you didn't know Sam liked so many Euro games, and you didn't know Z liked so many obscure games. Well, maybe you did, but still, very interesting list, and I think they're going to only get more interesting as we get closer to their top 10. Also, reviews. Wow, folks, we got some good reviews coming this week. In fact, 4 of my reviews at least, I think 4 of them, I am going to rave about these games. Like, these games are phenomenally great. So there is some good stuff coming. Not going to spoil what's coming, but keep an eye on it. Some big name games and some small name games that I'm going to rave about. And then maybe the big game I don't rave about, but you'll have to watch and see. And also we'll have a bunch of other reviews. At Dice Tower, we have a post-Gencon show in which we talk about the convention, and we also answer a lot of questions from listeners about various topics and talk about some of these games that I'm so excited about. So that will be posted tomorrow. And you can find out the rest of our shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. All right, well, what's next? Time to think.
From Pair of Dice Paradise with the next installment in my Meeples for Sheepish Peoples series, where I talk about the social activity of board games in the lives of people who aren't really socially outgoing. Now I'd like to start today with an impression. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you my impression of a young Chaz Marler at every 8th grade dance. Don't worry, kid. You'll grow out of it. Now, let's fast forward to present day with adult Chaz, who has a family, a career, and a mortgage. Here's my impression of adult Chaz at the first board gaming convention that he attended a couple of years ago. That was the exact moment that I realized that I'm never going to grow out of my social anxiety. But I don't want it to prevent me from attending gaming groups or conventions and playing as many games as possible. So what does one do? Well, one of the things that helps me break out of my shell at a large game group or convention is to arrive when the doors open. One of the larger gaming groups in my city holds a quarterly game day, which between 30 to 60 people attend. But if I arrive even 15 minutes after they open the doors, I find that groups have already formed at tables, and it can be really intimidating to try and interrupt a game in progress to ask if you can join in. But arriving on time, I discovered that those first 15 minutes usually just involved everyone just standing around, staring at the piles of games, awkwardly asking each other, I don't know, what do you want to play? By arriving just a few minutes earlier, I went from walking into a room of games and groups already in motion to being there when everyone was shyly shrugging at each other, cautiously throwing out game suggestions. Seeing everyone else being just as nervous as I was went a long way towards relieving the anxiety of breaking the ice. As a result, I spent a lot less time standing on the sidelines at those conventions. All right, next time, I'll reveal why I love traffic cones.
With the recent influx in the number of board game cafes around the world, there is a burgeoning new field of employment, game guru. A lot of people wonder what it takes to be a game guru at a place like Snakes and Lattes. Well, for your edification, we now present to you the Game Guru Challenge. Yay! Roll the film.
The Game Guru needs physical stamina to survive a shift on the floor, so we begin with the heavy strategy lift. The physical strength needed to lift some of these monstrous games is truly prodigious. The Guru must also be able to solve mysteries, such as, what the heck game does this piece come from? The Game Guru needs to know games inside and out. Finally, the ideal Game Guru must have the social skills to help customers courteously while still expressing their love of games. If you think you have what it takes to be a game guru, post a comment identifying the following game pieces.
One of the podcasts I do is the Dice Tower Showdown podcast. And one of them we talked about how to deal with players, and the phrase "it's just a game" came up. And this came up in the Dice Tower Guild, which is a set of forums if you've never been there. And you can find those on our website, dicetower.com. Just click on forums. But someone mentioned that they didn't like the phrase "it's just a game" because that belittles the game. It doesn't matter what type of game you're playing. So whether the game is a game where you're pointing at other people, guns, that's one thing. Or here you have D&D Attack Wing where you're flying dragons around. Or maybe you're playing something very serious like Twilight Struggle. And to say it's just a game belittles it, and it's not an activity in that regard. And I understand that. As a gamer, we often deal with the prejudice, and I think this prejudice is, in my opinion, is dropping dramatically all over the place. But it's like, oh, you play games. I get that, for people, oh, you play games for a living. Well, I talk about games and I produce a show and stuff, but yeah, I do games quite a bit. I play with games. Oh, well, that must be great to play games. And some people almost look at it as childish. In fact, a prominent podcaster one time said that certain themes basically were childish and people when they grew up should put those behind. And that kind of irks me to some end. This isn't a childish thing here behind me. I think there's a lot of great good in games. I've spoken at conferences before talking to teachers the benefits of games in the classroom. I definitely think there's a social benefit, and I'm glad when socially in that people get into games because it helps them break the barriers and learn to deal with other people. Games can teach us a lot about life, and games can be a creative output for us. But most of all, games are a fun activity. Most people don't look at games as work to do. It's something you're excited about, something fun to do. And therefore, when I say it's just a game, and I will continue to use that phrase, I thought about it for a while after what I read some people wrote, but I think it's okay to say it's just a game in some instances because compared to real life, it is just a game. When I lose in this game, it doesn't affect life. I make a poor decision in this game. I don't have to live with that the rest of my life. I just have to live with that the rest of this game. Unless, of course, you double-cross your wife in a game, you may live with that for the rest of your life. But that's a different story. I didn't double-cross her in the past 10 years. But getting off topic there, it's just a game. So we'll say it to people. We say it to kids when they play. And I teach my kids this all the time. We play games and they get upset. And I say, listen, that is just a game. And if you're getting that upset about just this game here, then what's going to happen when something more important happens to you? And so this to me helps cope by kind of bringing out of reality. Why are you angry? Why are you upset that you lost? Why are you gloating for victory for long periods of time? It's just a board game. It's just a card game. It's nothing to get upset about. I use that when we're talking about I dropped some pieces on the table, or people are drinking at the table. It's just a game. Yes, there's some monetary stuff involved in that, but it's just a game. Sure, games are important to us, and some games are more valuable than others. And if someone gets mad in the game, it might be some bigger underlying problem that they're dealing with somewhere else I don't know about. But what we're doing right here isn't that important. And I worry sometimes that some people who get upset all the time when they lose at games, maybe gaming then isn't a hobby for them. Maybe they should play more cooperative games. Someone who gloats all the time and finds all their joy in winning games. I would say the same to them, because to me they are just games. They're a great tool and they're wonderful, but when all comes and said and done with it, they don't even remotely marginally matter in life. There are many things more important in games, especially people. And so when I say it's just a game, you get angry about losing, or you're cheating, or whatever social rule you're breaking. I can say, hey, is the offense that you're going to have with the people that you're getting angry at, that is much more important than this game. This is a game. That is a person that you're going to have to deal with in the future. This is just a game. That is a real relationship. So that's why I will say it's just a game. I don't mean to belittle games or the people who play them, but sometimes it does need to be put in perspective, especially for kids, but some adults sometimes too. Well, we're getting close to the end of the show. We have a new board game breakfast, a new segment here. I'm going to let it introduce itself, and we have this at least a couple times. Here we go.
Hey, it's the Captain here. Welcome to Carry On, my 4-part mini-series discussing gaming on the go. Now, perhaps you have a job like mine where you're traveling a lot. Well, of course you want to bring some of that great gaming goodness with you anytime that you're gone. But traveling with games can be tricky. There's some important things for you to consider before you throw some cards in your carry-on. You may have rather restricted room in your rucksack. Or maybe you're just worried that your brand new deck builder is going to get dented and dinged up while it's in your duffel bag. Perhaps you just want to know what's the best game to bring along that gives you the most bang for your buck. Well, let's start with the first one, protecting your games. Whether you're a veteran or you're a brand new recruit to board gaming, nobody wants to get their board games and their card games all bent up. My first tip, sleeve your cards. Sleeves usually come in a pack of 50 to 100. They can be clear, matte, and some of them even have art on the back of them. Make sure you get the right size because they come in a variety. If you're not sure, ask at your local gaming shop or look at some of the forums that you'll find on Board Game Geek. Your cards can really take a lot of damage while you're traveling, but if you get a sleeve on them, they'll last a whole lot longer. Princess Annette just went to survival school. My next recommendation, leave the box home. When possible for a card game, use a deck box instead. Deck boxes come in a variety of different shapes and sizes. Some of them are soft plastic, but you can also get hard acrylic boxes as well. Although it is a deck box, if you leave a little bit of extra room, you could even put some components inside. My last recommendation, in order to get the most out of your packing space, try consolidating your games. Not only does it really save on space, but it's easy to grab and go and bring a variety with you. Well, that's it for now. Join me next time where I'll be looking at some portable games that I personally recommend. Until then, carry on.
And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a good start to the week. Like I said, I'm so excited. You can't see behind me, but there are stacks of games that are almost at the top of the table here on the floor behind me. Games that need to be played. Some of them I'm so pumped about. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to play that. But I can't wait to play that. I can't wait to play that. So many cool games to play. So little time to play. But I will try to get them all done and reviewed as quickly as possible. Speaking of that, it's time to get to that. I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production, sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., an amazing place to buy board games. Cool stuff, in stock, at CoolStuffInc.com.